Good morning. This is the Weber County Commission meeting dated on this Tuesday, the 23rd of March, 2021. We welcome you, those of you who have chose to be in person. We're glad you're here. We're missing Klima and Gardner, but we'll let them go to their respectful cities to offer their comments there. We appreciate that. We also recognize from the great city of Washington Terrace, the past student body president of Bonneville High School, Mark Allen, who's the mayor there, and his city manager, Tom Hansen, who's with us. Glad you're here. Thank you both very much. Glad to have you here. Commissioners, the gal who puts on the fair for us every year, Miss Ashton German Wilson, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after she comes to the microphone. Following her, our invocation will be given by Mr. Duncan Olson, the general manager out at the Golden Spike Event Center, and then I'll have the thought of the day. Miss Wilson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear, kind, and gracious Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this day. We're grateful for all the many blessings that we have been given. We're grateful for the country that we live in and our great leaders. Heavenly Father, as we go throughout another week and another commission meeting, please bless us with the ability to continue to move in the right direction, and that the commissioners might be blessed and helped and guided through all of these decisions. Heavenly Father, please bless our land with more moisture, that we might be able to sustain our lawns, our gardens, our pastures. Please bless these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Olson, we appreciate your thoughts and your being willing to participate today. Thank you, Sean. Commissioners, my thought today, I'm going to just give a little beforehand information. Every year at Easter, the Friday and Saturday before Easter, there is a group of those that are rather dedicated who put on leathers and adorn mountain men costume, so to speak, to revitalize or to at least help us remember the tradition of the mountain men around this area hundreds plus years ago. And we're lucky to have a historical place here, right, not even a mile from this location at Fort Buenaventura. Next weekend, or Easter weekend, will be the Mountain Man Rendezvous out there. One of the great guys that have helped keep that Mountain Man Rendezvous event active. But not just that, he's a carpenter by trade, but a carpenter that's kept alive the way of carpentry from 150 years ago, meaning that he'll fire a furnace and make iron hinges and iron door latches. He's made mud chimneys, the way they used to make them. I was very impressed. My property, I've got some place that there's some wild rose, and it's always a problem. That wild rose is very viney. And when I took a look at the arrows that he'd made, I said, hey, you make that arrow? He says, well, you get some wild rose and you stretch it and dry it and strip the thorns off of it, which are plentiful, and then you're able to, that is so, it's hard enough, it's light enough, it flies straight. When he adds real feathers and then a rocked tip point, it makes an arrow that was worthy of craftsmanship from hundreds of years ago, how they used to make it. He goes by his mountain man name is Thor, but his name is Chuck Willis. He's a great guy, contributes a lot here. For those of you who like camping, up at the Weber Memorial Park just below Causey, he's totally renovated that building up there and it looks phenomenal, including pavers and rock around there for families of 60, 80, 100 to go up and gather and to hold picnics and stuff right on the river below Causey. It's just wonderful. So not only is he helping us out at the Fort Buenaventura, but also other areas. Out at the archery range, he and his team have made teeter-totters out of logs and climbing jungle gyms and things like that. I can't give enough thanks to Mr. Willis, or Thor as he likes to be called. He's just really an exceptional character that helps us a lot here in Weber County. But he has a poem. The poem is Fur and Feather Work Together. And it says, the raven soars with watchful eye to spot a carcass from the sky. His raucous call and squatching sound alerts the wolves down on the ground. The black-feathered birds descend to eat, but fur and hide protect the meat. The wolves arrive with fangs not bill, tear the flesh and eat their fill. Wolves and ravens work together, sharing bounty, fur and feather. I invite you to go out next week and participate in the with a mask, of course, but out at the Fort Buenaventura and see another one of the treasured, valued facilities that we have here in Weber County. It's a great place, and appreciate this opportunity to share that with you, Commissioners. Any questions from either of you? Very nice. Very nice. Great. Thank you. We'll move on then. We have quite a public here, and I don't know what's looking on the line right now. Shelley, do we have any comments from the public? This is the public comment, or item E, echo, on our agenda. Any comments from Zoom? Anyone in the galley? There's quite a few here. Have any comments with regards to our agenda? Isn't it nice? We'll move on to item F, like Foxtrot, on our agenda then. Number 1, Commissioners, is a request for approval of warrants 3653 through and including 3695 and 457, 439 through and including 457, 585 and 76 and 77 in the amount of $2,444,486.47. Item 2 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $162,629.71. Item 3, Commissioners, is a request for approval of minutes that were held on March the 16th. Item 4 is a request for acceptance of a publicly dedicated road, which is 56 North Street, and associated improvement agreements for the Fenster Farms Phase 4. Commissioners, we're pulling item number 5. That'll be moved to, in another week, to the, it's another meeting we have, so that will not be heard today. Item 6 is a request for approval of updates to Weber County Human Resource Policy 4-400 regarding workers' compensation. Item 7 is a request for approval of retirement agreements by and between Weber County and Bradley Durant. Item 8, a request for approval of a severance agreement by and between Weber County and Ross Reeder. Item 9 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Great Basin Antique Farm Machinery for antique farm machinery to be held on display during the 2021 Weber County Fair. Item 10 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Michael Berry for a junior livestock judge at the 2021 Weber County Fair. Item 11, request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Brent Kelly to hire Mr. Kelly as a junior livestock auctioneer at the 2021 Weber County Fair. Commissioners, I look forward to the day that we can read that name as an auctioneer of Commissioner Scott Jenkins in a year, hopefully not too far to come. Item 12 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Rich Holmgren to hire Mr. Holmgren as a junior livestock auctioneer at the 2021 Weber County Fair. Item 13 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Matt Drake to hire Mr. Drake as the MC at the 2021 Weber County Fair. He won't be the guy roaming all over the place doing the PSAs. And item 14, Commissioner, is a request for approval to declare parcel 17-019-0016 as surplus property. Commissioners, before we go to Mr. Hatch, any questions from you?
I do have one.
Please, Commissioner Jenkins.
The only question is Michael Berry for the judge. I'm sure he is great. But that's not that lady that we had last year, and everybody loved that lady.
Because Ms. Gurman, will you come and explain, or excuse me, Ms. Wilson, will you come and explain why we don't have the same judge every year at the fair? There's a reason for that. There's actually a reason. And you're right, that judge we had last year she was phenomenal.
It's hard to stand out as a livestock judge, but she stood out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had lots of compliments about her. The only reason we try to keep it switched is just so they don't get to know the kids and there doesn't become a bias.
Sure, I understand. I'm okay.
But I'm sure she'd be welcomed back in some subsequent year, especially the year that maybe we have a different auctioneer.
Yeah, and under circumstances, we're just a little spooked after what happened last year. So I've kind of got her on retainer just in case this gentleman isn't able to come. So
Well, there you go. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner? Mr. Hatch?
Good morning. This week we issued 22 purchase orders for $163,000. Just over a fourth of that amount, or $43,000, is for the library. That will go towards purchasing gloves as well as building and grounds improvements. 18%, or $29,000, is for the sheriff's office, which will purchase 2 drones as well as a radar trailer. 12%, or $20,000, is for the roads department to purchase plow blades as well as materials for signage. 10%, or $17,000, is for IT, which will purchase primarily just a switch upgrade at the Kiesel facility. 7%, we had 2 items at 7%, or about $11,000. One is for the transfer station, which purchases fuel as well as staffing and some permitting fees. And then another $12,000 for the clerk auditor's office to pay for title search services in preparation for the upcoming tax sale. 6%, or $10,000, is for the Golden Spike Arena to purchase food supplies. As far as our checks, we issued 187 checks this week for $2.4 million. 1/3 of that amount, or $802,000, was health insurance premiums for employees and retirees. We had 2 items at 14% of the total amount, or $333,000. One was for the transfer station, which was almost exclusively for disposal fees. And then one for the jail, which was primarily nursing services, but also culinary, inmate counseling, as well as building maintenance. 10% of the amount, or $252,000, was our monthly contract payment to the paramedic fund. And then 8%, or $197,000, was our monthly contribution to the WEBER Human Services Organization.
Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Appreciate that. Commissioners, if I could, Deputy Horton, would you please come to the lectern, please, for just a moment and explain why we need drones, or what drones are going to be. This is kind of rather exciting, and I know that you're somewhat versed in this, and so if you could just give just a couple minutes and tell us what we're doing with drones.
Yeah, right
Pull that
now,
mic a little closer so we can hear you.
right now I'm currently over search and rescue for the sheriff's office, and we've have had quite a few drones for quite a few years now, probably 2, and they are amazing for the search and rescue work. As far as going out and searching, it's cutting everything in half. Our search time is cut in half, and then our rescue time is cut in half, because once the drone finds a person, the drone will stay on scene, and then as the teams come in, they're able to get there faster because they know where they're going. And we're kind of looking at the same thing for patrol work. We've been talking to other agencies that have these drones, and they're a game changer for us. We've licensed 6 to 7 pilots now as deputies that have had their 107 license, and we haven't purchased the drones yet, or we put the PO in because we're waiting for a new model to come out, and we've already had a couple of deputies come up saying we so could have used that last night. One of them was in West Haven, where they were trying to find a subject in a junkyard that was hiding in there, and so to be able to throw this up and not put an officer in danger while you're looking for somebody or something is key. It's really going to be a game changer for the sheriff's office.
Kind of like a modern day fur and feather work together, isn't it?
We had a situation last fall, and I won't go into details, but it was a risky situation, and they took the search and rescue drone and were looking for a suspect, and that drone never got within a mile of where the suspect might have been. So no deputy had to walk up to a building to try and find somebody, knock on a door, But a drone was sent in, and with thermal technology on it, being wintertime, we could tell that nobody was home. But that was from a mile away.
Isn't that wonderful? This thermal technology they use is just incredible. We had a demonstration up at Weber State where they went all along the foothills of the mountains here on the east, and it was just the detail and the efficiency was just incredible. You've done a wonderful job with this, using current technology.
Well, and these are going to be, these aren't for patrol work. These are not going to be thrown up for every situation. This is when a critical situation arises, we can probably go get eyes on first and see what's going on.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you for that detail.
You bet.
Commissioners, any other questions for Mr. Hatch or Mr. Horton or anything else that appeared on our consent items today?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Since it's in your portfolio, and there's a lot of discussion, a lot of action items on the Weber County Fair, public might want some information, the dates of that county fair.
Mrs. Wilson, would you come up and give the dates and everything else pertaining around the fair this year, where we are with that? Little update. Thank you, Commissioner Frohr.
So this year's fair will be August 11th through the 14th. We're just planning full speed ahead. The only day we're kind of working on entertainment options still is Thursday. We've been going back and forth with, everybody loved the drive-in concert last year, but that parking lot will be unavailable if we have a full-blown fair. So we've tossed around a comedian. Me and Duncan have recently talked about having a variety act show that night as kind of a family activity. So full speed ahead, planning. As you can see the agenda, we've got lots of stuff to discuss, but
The 11th through the 14th.
11th through the 14th.
Great. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Please.
then I think it would be fair to say that this year we're going to have a fair rather than an unfair fair.
I think so.
Would that be right based on that timing?
I think that the 11th through the 14th of August sounds like it's a very fair fair.
Okay, good. Just like to make that clarification. Yeah.
That's good. Well, with those then, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion for the consent items excluding item 5.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Those consent items are passed. Fatima, thank you. Now we'll move on to it's ordinance number 5, action item, G like golf, number 1. It's a request for approval of ordinance 5, the County Commissioners of Weber County is authorizing the seasonal closure of Avon Pass Road and Ant Flat Road. This is the second reading. Again, Mark Horton. Commissioners, any questions? If you'll just briefly just summarize this one more time. Mark, if you would, please.
Yeah, this is we're really not changing anything. We're just writing it down. This is seasonal closure of Ant Flat Road and Avon Road in the winter due to heavy snow and being unable to maintain those roads.
Just confirm, please, that those roads on the Cache Valley side or the Rich side are closed as well?
Cache County, yes.
Okay.
Cash.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Horton?
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County authorizing the seasonal closure of Avon Pass Road and Ant Flat Road.
Great. We have a motion?
And a second.
Great. Thank you very much, Commissioners. Fatima?
Commissioner Frohr,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Chair Harvey.
Aye. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your work there. That passes unanimously.
your time.
Appreciate that. As Uncle Paul Harvey would say, page 2. Item 2 is a request for approval of interlocal agreement by and between Weber County and Washington Terrace City for a tax increment agreement. Our presenter today is with our Economic Development, Holland Wilbanks. Ms. Wilbanks, go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you, Commissioners, and I'd like to invite Mayor Mark Allen and Tom Hansen to join me as well because they have been such great partners in this agreement. So what we're really excited about today
Come on
is,
up, Tom and Mark.
to have the opportunity to participate in an agreement with Washington Terrace to support office development. It's a 16-year agreement at a 50% participation. And I just want to add that it has been a pleasure working with this team. Any data our finance team has asked for, they have responded to extremely quickly. And so I just want to say thanks to Mayor and Tom. And if you guys have any questions about the the agreement. I'm happy to answer them, or I'm sure the mayor is as well. I know you guys have had a chance to review them, but we're really excited about participating in this partnership.
This is an exciting project. Mr. Hanson, Mayor Allen, would either one of you two like to say anything?
Sure. I'll never give up the opportunity to talk. So, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Frohr, Commissioner Jenkins, I'd just like to thank Holland. She's been great. And we've worked closely on this. Weber County and Washington Terrace have a great relationship. And we have some great partnerships. And we have a partnership today that you're really gonna enjoy. And I know you've seen it, but we would appreciate your approval on this. Will help the economic development in entire Weber County with Class A office space, and it will keep one of our greatest corporations headquarters right here in Weber County. So we're excited about this opportunity. So we would appreciate your support. I have Tom Hanson with me, City Manager. Also have Randy Sant with me. So if you have any questions, the questions are going to go to Randy because he knows all that stuff. But just appreciate you. And continue working with you.
Thank you, Commissioner Frohr. This is in your portfolio. Thank you, Mayor. Any comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor, Tom, Mr. Sant, appreciate the information that you've supplied to the county and our finance team. We took on a little different approach a couple years ago with tax increment request and wanted to make sure that those tax increment was actually something that was going to go to a project that, number one, was going to benefit the county, and number two, was actually going to happen and was fair to the existing taxpayers of Weber County. In my opinion, you've met all those bullet points. Outstanding effort and the communication. We also know that not every city that we deal with for tax increment is as forthcoming in providing information. And the 50%, I believe it was 16 years, in my opinion, meets all those requirements that we look for in what I consider to be equitable, fair tax increment financing. So, and needless to say, this gives the ability of one of our major corporate entities here in Weber County to stay put. And I know that there was pressure on that institution to maybe look a little south to move. So no better place, in my opinion, than to put this in your city, Mayor and Tom. I'm looking forward to seeing that office space develop. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Jenkins, any comments?
You bet. As these kind of requests go, this is a modest request, and I appreciate you keeping it that way. I had an opportunity to go and look at it and be part of this, and I'm excited for you. I think this is going to be a great enhancement to your community. Your commercial properties is going to make it look better and function better. It's in a great location. The view is going to be spectacular, and I'm really excited for you. So I think you've all done a great job here, and I very much support this.
Thank you very much. Growing up on the rim overlooking Romer Park and knowing that little peninsula is in Riverdale, I've always considered myself to be a terrace boy. There's a little, for those who know the Terrace Boys, it's a unique club, so to speak, to be in there. And whether that's grafted in or just self-imposed, it's been wonderful. But Mayor, and I want to tell you, as we work with different cities, I especially appreciate the professionalism of Tom Hanson. He's a seasoned veteran. He does what's right. He has great communication skills. He's fair, I think, to the citizens of to Washington Terrace City. He cares about where he serves. You've done a wonderful job there, Tom, and I really appreciate that. Mr. Sant, thank you for putting all this together. Holland, appreciate that. Are there any other comments for presentation? Holland, I'll go to you first, and then I'll go to Mr. Hanson second.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. The only thing I would add is per our normal agreements, we do have a cap on the terms so that it's a 16-year agreement at a 50% participation rate. But if we meet the cap, which is $740,000 before the 16 years, then the agreement ends. So that's just part of what we've put together in our interlocal agreements, and everybody's, that fills the hole of what the development needs as far as how we can help support that. And the Weber School District is a part of this as well, and they've already signed their agreement, and so I think we've got a pretty sound contract here.
Our appreciation to Mr. Stevens, Jeff Stevens, the superintendent, and his board. That's great. Tom?
Just briefly, it is public knowledge now that Golden West Credit Union is the developer that we're working with. And to the point that was brought up earlier, Salt Lake County, Salt Lake City would love to be able to persuade someone like a corporate headquarter like Golden West Credit Union to come their way. But they're a Weber County institution. They want to stay in Weber County. And so with the court headquarters that they have, the renovation and occupation, if you will, of the grocery store that we had in Washington Terrace for a little bit, they're going to be building basically two 100,000 square foot Class A office buildings there in Washington Terrace, where where people can come and store their trailers now. So we're going to take a value of land, really raise that, and keep a corporate, shall we say, a corporate friend that will not only create a better tax base, but also provide many, many good paying jobs right here at home in Weber County. So thank you for your work with us. Thank you for Golden West Credit Union for their participation and their willingness and desire to stay local. We've been working with them actually for quite some time, actually some years, getting these things put together. They don't happen overnight, but once this was able to all come together, your team, Randy, Sant, all of you were able to really do a nice job getting us through the finish line. So we're inches away, but thank you again. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that very much. And Kerry Wall and his team, great job. They're a wonderful partner for Weber County, help making Weber County wonderful.
It is.
Commissioners, I'd entertain a motion then, since the presentation. I'll entertain a motion for this interlocal agreement by and between Weber County and Washington Terrace City for this tax increment agreement. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd love to make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement by and between Weber County and Washington Terrace City for tax increment as explained on the agreement.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Frohr. Commissioner Jenkins?
Second.
Thank you. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion unanimously carries. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson, you have the next 9 items on our agenda. That's wonderful. I'm going to ask that you share with us all 9 items and then field any questions from the commission on those 9 items, just so we can be productive here, if you would, please. Please start, if you would. For the first one is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Brass Ring Amusements to have the carnival, wow, at the 2021 Weber County Fair. What does that mean to us?
Yeah, we're super proud and excited of this. It's been, I think it's just going on 10 years since we've had a carnival at the fair. So we're ecstatic. This is a 3-year agreement. We were negotiating with a local carnival that had offered us 10% of gross sales. Duncan got a hold of this California carnival, and right off the bat, they offered us 20% gross sales. So that's exciting. They obviously are completely shut down in California, so they're looking to branch out to come to Utah. We've got them set up with our local UAFE group here in the state to try and get them some more business and get them routed out here, but we're super excited for this group to come to our fair.
On this first item, Commissioners, item number 3, are there any questions regarding this? None being heard. Is this the same carnival that was in Washington County for years? It's a different one.
No, that was the one we had been negotiating with that it didn't work out with.
Wonderful. Item 4, Ms. Wilson is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Donald Nash Entertainment to have the Bubble Tower at the 2021 Weber County Fair. The Bubble Tower. Go ahead.
Yes, yeah, we had this in 2019. Kids and parents loved it. Same terms that we had in 2019, $4,400, and I get them rooms.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Commissioners, questions about the Bubble Tower? Thank you. None being heard. Item number 5 is a request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and EKR for marketing for the Weber County Fair. Ms. Wilson.
Yep, this is another 3-year agreement. We went out to RFP at the end of last year and just got everything ironed out. The total is $71,850, which includes the advertising and the ad buys. So this is another one we're excited to get some momentum with our marketing company, and they're currently working on a new website for us and just full steam ahead.
Commissioners, questions for Mrs. Wilson on this?
The question I have on this is, DCO decided they didn't want anything to do with this, right?
Correct. They did not submit a proposal.
Well, I feel bad on one hand, but on the other hand, they saved our bacon last year. And they told us that that was their intention, not to bid this. So that doesn't surprise me.
Well, good.
No, I'm good.
Great. We're going to move to item 6 on the agenda, which is a request for approval of the contract by and between Weber County and Comedy Hypnosis Show, or Kelly Carl, to have a hypnosis performance at the 2021 Weber County Fair. Ms. Wilson?
Yes, this will be her first time as our hypnotist. We met her in San Antonio 2 years ago. We had her all lined up for last year, and obviously that didn't happen, so we're excited to have her. She's going to do 2 performances each night of the fair.
Great. Questions? Wave my watch in front of you so that we're good. Joke, anyway. Bad one. Item number 7 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Wooden Creations for wood carving performances at the 2021 fair. I love this one, Ashton. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is a good one, especially because they end up paying for themselves. So we do a silent auction for the carvings that Mark creates, and so it ends up being good for everybody. It's just a staple at the fair that we have every year.
Mark Culp is one of the best carvers in the world. He brings the wood so that it doesn't check or split or crack. He brings great wood with him, carves it up, and the amount of money he charges us, we end up selling those carvings to high bid, and it ends up paying for himself. So it's basically free entertainment at the fair. It's a great deal.
That's great.
He also donates one of them to your guys' golf tournament.
He does. He donates to our golf tournament on that. So that's great. Questions for Ms. Wilson on Mark Culp? Great. So we'll move on then, if we will, to item number 8. This is another big one. Stern Dirt. This is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Stern Dirt Racing for the Demolition Derby at the 2021 Weber County Fair. Ms. Wilson?
This is going to be a big derby. He opened entries, and by the end of the week, it was completely full. So we're going to have more cars than we've ever had before. But same terms as we've had the last couple years.
Very good. Questions all about the Demolition Derby? Number 9 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and the Horse Nations Indian Relay Council for Indian Relay Races. And that's what they want to be called, Indian Relay Races during the 2021 Weber County Fair. Ms. Wilson?
Yes, sir. So the same as the Derby, same contract. Nothing's changed with this from the since last year's Friday, Saturday entertainment, Friday evening and Saturday afternoon.
Questions about the Indian Relay Races or comments on this one?
I'm glad to see him come back. It's always been a fun venue out there and I think the public really enjoys it. Then hopefully this year again, we'll be able to fill the stands.
Yep.
That's the plan.
Nice.
Fun to watch.
Very good. Item 10 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and the Weber County Sheriff's Mounted Posse for help with parking. A lot of that's mounted. Parking attendants for the 2021 Weber County Fair. Ms. Wilson?
Yeah, the Sheriff's Posse does our parking in our west dirt lot from 4 until the close of the fair. So it ends up being $1,000 a day for them to help us out with that.
Plus gives great money, contribution to a nonprofit here, a local nonprofit. Great. They're up on their horse. They can see above the cars. They can see the things. It's a great idea. Questions, commissioners? Moving on then, item number 11. It's our last item on your group of 9, Ms. Wilson, which is a request for approval of contract by and between Weber County and Boom for the walk-around entertainment at the 2021 Weber County Fair. Go ahead.
We're excited about this one as well. This was new entertainment that we had lined up last year that we had made contact with when we go down to San Antonio for a fair expo. I believe it's $8,200. They take care of their rooms, so this is the first time you'll have seen this contract, but $8,200, I believe, is the total.
Great. Commissioners, questions? Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion for item 3 through and including 11.
So moved.
Second.
Having a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries on all those items. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Ashton, we appreciate your help. Duncan, similar fashion, you have the next 2 items, item 12 and 13. If you'll present both of those for questions, like in the same pattern for efficiency. First item, number 12.
Sorry for the fairgrounds overload this morning, but we've got a lot of fun stuff going on, and we're excited. The first contract that I have is between us and the UQHRA, the flat track racing. This is a contract for them to hold their races on, I believe, the 17th and 18th, and then the May 1st. Pretty standard contract like we've done in the past. We end up being a sponsor for discounted rates for use of the track.
This is flat track use on our 3/4 mile oval out there at the fairgrounds. Commissioners, any questions regarding the Utah Quarter Horse Racing Association? Being heard?
I'm being told that they have over 100 horses for the Hadley Giles, which is the main race that happens so the trials happen on the 17th and 18th.
Boy, that's
but
phenomenal.
They have about 100 horses.
They're coming from how many different states on that one?
3 or 4 for sure that I know of, the regional stuff. But last year we started picking up people from New Mexico and Arizona that would come up. We also are going to be a part of the challenge race again, which is not the UQ, but the AQHA. That's coming from Washington. Washington couldn't host it again. Our local group said they'd love to. The state gave them some money, and so we're hosting the challenge race again as well.
Wonderful. I know many of the people who raise those race horses. It becomes a great market for the barrel horse folks around here, which is very strong to get their horses, their next horses. Very good. Questions for Mr. Olson on item number 12, Commissioners? Move on to item 13, Duncan, which is a request for Weber County Chariot Racing Association and the ACR World Champion 2021. This part of this is going to be ratified, correct?
Correct. Yeah. The first weekend was last weekend, real successful, even with the crummy weather. We had a really good turnout, some fast times. The last half of the World Chariots happens this Saturday and Sunday. Our contract this year, we've done it several times in the past where we gave a lot of rates for the sponsorship. This year, we didn't give as big of a discount. It's a small discount for the exhibit hall for their vendors, but they're paying pretty much for everything else this year. So kind of excited about that.
About the stalls?
The stalls, we did a bulk price. So that way they could earn a little bit on top of theirs, but they're charging about $25 a stall, which is right on par.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioners, questions for Mr. Olson regarding the World Championship chariot races?
Me.
None being heard, I'll entertain a motion for item 12 and for item 13 on our action items today.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Great. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Both those items are, both those items are confirmed unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Olson.
Thank you.
Coming out and your participation today. Item number 14, Brian Bayless, is a request for, this is a resolution, number 12, Commissioners. Resolution, request for approval of Resolution 12, County Commissioners in Weber County regarding annexation of certain property.
Morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the time. We are in the process of acquiring JDC Ranch, 236 acres. state statute, it's currently in Weber County, and state statute requires that we cannot leave behind islands or peninsulas as a result of our annexation. And so this resolution is simple. Regardless of what city we would annex into, whether that be Far West or Plain City, there will be remainder parcels left over as a result of that annexation. And some of the exhibits, I'm not sure if those are in your packet or whatever, but some of those exhibits kind of show there are approximately eight properties that would be left behind as islands or peninsulas. And so as a result, we have spoken to Rocky Mountain Power. One of those is Rocky Mountain Power, one of the eight, so that would put us at 7. Rocky Mountain Power is very willing to annex to either city, depending on our discretion. And so the resolution simply allows for those islands and peninsulas to be remaining. There is a process in the state statute that allows us to force those property owners to annex either way. But I guess we wouldn't want to be forced one way, and so we've kind of assumed that the county commissioners, assuming it's okay with you, we will let those property owners make that decision when they're ready to use one way or the other. And the legal team, Charlie has been great to review this, help us review this. The legal team has reviewed this, provided some comments, which are incorporated into the agreement in front of you. So unless you have questions for me, that's my presentation.
Mr. Frohr, Commissioner Jenkins, questions?
No comment, if I might, though, Mr. Chair.
Please.
So I've actually met with these gentlemen and looked at the proposed plat. What I like about the resolution, it basically leaves it up to the cities, whichever city may choose to participate, the ability to work with the developer and come up with a plan that works for both the city and the developer, without us dictating what city it should go into. So in my opinion, it's a good move because the cities and the developer can work out an agreement. If they can't work out an agreement, then it stays with the county. So, and is that your understanding?
Correct,
Mr. Bader?
yes.
So no predetermined action at this point in time.
Right. No, this is just simply, really all this does is allow us to start the conversation with those property owners to say,
Right.
hey, we're working on annexation. You have the choice.
Right.
And so let's have that discussion. And if they want to come, we'd love to have them come. We will certainly have those discussions with them. But I would guess, based on earlier conversations, some of them may not be willing to come in.
Yeah, and as much as I dislike the idea of creating additional islands or peninsulas out there that we've dealt with, I'm also not in favor of telling somebody they need to move into a particular city. I think that should be their determination. So that's my comments.
Mr. Jenkins.
Well, am in favor of the resolution. This is boilerplate stuff, and just it's part of the process that takes place. I'm not happy because on the front end it appears this is going to go to Far West, not Plain City, and that really upsets me. But that's no reason not to vote for the resolution. So I'm going to vote for the resolution and speak in favor of it, but I don't know. I've contacted several people in Plain City expressing my displeasure of what's happening here and asking them to do something about it, but I don't know what's going to happen. Like you say, time will tell. But anyway, as of right now today, I'm going to support this.
Commissioners, it appears both of you have done your homework to very, very good. My position is that I like the idea that people get to choose where they go, and I like municipalities. If that means that we're working ourselves as a elected body, a legislative body, out of a job, so be it. But I think it will help with a lot of different things out there. It gives people a local voice. I like municipalities. I like county government. I like county government so much that I think we have the best county government in the history of the state of Utah, if the truth be known. But it's maybe somewhat biased, but it certainly is true. And so I'm in favor. So one of the two of you, I'll ask for a motion, please, for this resolution.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County regarding the annexation of certain property as described in that resolution.
Have a motion?
I'll second that. It's Resolution 12.
Resolution 12 it is. Thank you very much. Fatima.
Mr. Crockett, is there a final resolution to this? I don't have a final resolution.
Is it the red line copy that was submitted? So I believe, did the planning department put the resolution together?
Sorry, we did. We helped Brian and their legal division put the resolution together and ran it through your department.
So I don't have, we'd have to,
Okay,
we'll
great.
get you a final clean copy.
Thank you. Commissioner Faur,
Yes.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Yes.
and Chair Harvey.
Yes. Thank you. That resolution passes unanimously. Brian, you've done the impossible. Congratulations. Gambling is not legal in Utah, but if you would have been somewhere else, you might have made yourself pretty good here. Commissioners, item number H, like Harvey, is a request for a motion to adjourn the public meeting and convene a public hearing. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
No, that's, is that you or no? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're now in a public hearing, which means those of you in the room can talk. I'm afraid we're going to get to hear from Charlie. Although Felix, I'd really like hearing from you. But this is a discussion and/or action on a proposed text amendment, Weber County's land use code, that repeals the county's planned residential unit development, or a PRUD ordinance, and adopts a new master plan development, an MPD overlay zone in its place. Mr. Ewert, Charlie, welcome. Glad to have you here, and thanks for taking the barbs.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to do so. Let me, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen here.
Is there a way that we can see what you were seeing?
I hope so.
That question's not to you, and there it goes.
There you
Wow,
go.
The magic of television.
Okay. So this is actually a project that has been in process for a few years now. The county commission has already considered this text amendment, but that was a previous county commission. Commissioner Harvey, I think you might have been the only one on the commission at that time. And the request from the commission at that time was to table it pending a little bit more information, maybe a little bit of rework of the ordinance. So just a little bit of framework here. The county has a PRUD ordinance currently that we're suggesting that you repeal. And one of the reasons we're suggesting repeal it is because there's a couple of sentences in there that give the impression that a developer can propose anything that they want to propose and they're entitled to approval. That leads to a lot of unpredictability in development, and at the end of the day, this is a decision that you folks as the legislative body will make. It's awkward to put an administrative decision where they have a by right entitlement to approval in front of a legislative body with legislative powers. It seems a little bit more appropriate to make this a legislative decision. And so with that in mind, what we have done is we have proposed to repeal the PRUD ordinance. Last time Commission saw this, we were suggesting you replace it with a PRUD overlay. The word PRUD seems to be a little bit of a buzzword, a little bit of a trigger word for some folks out in the public, and it seemed to be a little bit for folks on the commission at the time. I think that's one of the reasons why it was delayed. And so we're moving away from that terminology and moving towards master plan development overlay zone. It's still basically a developer can propose almost whatever they want. This ordinance does set up a framework for a basis of negotiation. But it does allow a developer to say, we believe we have a superior product than what your current codes allow us to do. And so we want to suggest that, run it through the planning commission, run it through the county commission, and see if the county commission's comfortable with it. Before it even gets to your guys' table, most of the time we'll have a negotiated development agreement already set forth and ready for you guys to move on if you're comfortable doing so. That's the meat and potatoes of this. I don't have a big presentation for you guys today because I think it's a relatively simple transition from one to the other. It's just administrative decision, which is an entitlement to approval, moving that to a legislative decision, which gives the county commission the authority to say yes or no. Say you love it or you don't love it. The text that was in the previous PRUD code, a lot of that is staying the same. I did get in there and update some of the language so it's a little easier to get through, a little less, a little more clear than it was. The other thing that is attached to this is we want to do the same thing we did with the commercial zones just a month or two ago, where we had different chapters for different commercial zones. We want to just stitch those together so you've got, in the commercial chapter, you now have all of your commercial zones in one commercial chapter. We want to stitch together the agricultural zones in one agricultural chapter. Still different zones, just one chapter. We had to take some creative liberties at understanding and conceptualizing how all of that was to be interpreted and applied, given they're all coming together and now you can compare them right next to each other. But we tried to be as consistent as we could possibly be and answer all the questions we could possibly answer of all the externalities that could potentially come out of that. And so hopefully in execution, this really doesn't change how we execute it. It just changes the ease by which it can be executed. So it makes it easier. Any questions about that?
Commissioners, questions?
I don't have any questions. I speak in favor of this. Now, you could argue that we're getting the cart before the horse here a little, because we're going into create a new master plan for West Weber County, and we're doing a new sewer plan for the Upper Valley. And so you'd say, well, why wouldn't you do those plans then do that? Well, what ends up happening here is we're getting requests for PRUDs before that. So I'd argue, in fact, that we're actually pretty much getting the horse and the cart right where they should be. And so I'm pleased with this. I hate that PRUD ordinance that we've got and the results of what we're getting in some of it. And the development we're getting is not traditional city development as a result of this. And I speak in favor of traditional city development. And so that's one of the reasons I support this. And after we do our master plan and get this, if we need to make some changes, then we can make some. But we're trying to get ahead of this so that we're done getting these funky PRUDs. And so I speak in favor of it.
Great. Commissioner Prud, do you have any comments on this?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. I also support this change. Obviously, what this does, there's always been, in the 2 years I've been here, some concerns with the PRUD and what developers, how they read it and what they expected to get out of it, which in my opinion was somewhat gray area and hard for us to defend. And what I think, and I've always been a believer in, when we have a land use ordinance, it needs to be crystal clear. There shouldn't be any way for anybody to misinterpret that or interpret it different than how we intended. So I'm in favor of this, and I think actually now is a good time. We're a ways out from that master plan, and very likely we could have additional PRUDs developments come before us. And with this ordinance change, with land use change, it gives us the ability, as you've described, Charlie, to make it a legislative decision versus they say that they already have those rights, that it's not a legislative decision.
That's right.
I believe that legislative bodies should always have the ability to give you yay or nay on these developments. And I believe, Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what this does.
Exactly what it does.
Okay. So I'm in favor, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, I'd like to insert in our agenda an item called 4B, which allows for the public comments, or hearing or comments. It's not on our agenda. So after Charlie has presented 3 and Felix has presented 4, then we'll insert 4B for public comments, and so they can comment on anything we have here. So if there's no other questions for you on this item, Mr. Ewart, I'd like you to go on to item 3, as it's calendared, a discussion and or action on a proposed text amendment to Weber County's land use code to allow development to occur on a substandard streets or on substandard streets under certain circumstances. Charlie?
My understanding was that this one's going to be pulled from the
Yeah,
agenda.
Mr. Chair.
It is pulled.
Mr. Chair, I would move that this be put on a date forward. I think it still has some work to be done.
Great.
Second.
I'll take that motion as we get down to the action items further down. So we'll strike that now. We're going to move to item number 4. Felix? Alas, you are up. Great. This is a discussion. So item 2 will not be, or item 3 on our agenda under public hearing will not be heard. Item 4 is a discussion and/or action on a request to vacate a 10-foot public utility easement located on both sides of lot lines 63 and 64 of Durfee Creek Estates, number 2C, like Charlie. Felix Yavarino.
Yes, thank you, and that's excellent pronunciation, so thank you, Chair.
Well, it's Felix, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Felix.
Felix Yavarino.
That's
Great,
right.
thank you.
Yes, so as you mentioned, this is a request to vacate a 10-foot public utility easement that's between lot 63 and 64 of Durfee Creek Estates. They're up in the top of Liberty area. And it's a residential lot that's already been subdivided, and the owner of the lot, Mr. Oliver, he's purchased both lots. So his intention is to combine the lots and build a home in his desired location. So naturally, this lot line between the two and the public utility easements between the two get in the way. So that's the purpose of this vacation request. So before the meeting, it was expressed from Mr. Erickson from the attorney's office that when we're approving this, or I guess making a recommendation or approval for this type of vacation, it's important to emphasize in your findings that those two criteria from the state code, which basically good cause exists for the vacation, and neither public interest nor any person will be materially injured by this vacation. And so that concludes what I'd like to say today.
Great.
Happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you very much, Felix. Commissioner Frohr, Commissioner Jenkins, any comments or questions for Mr. Yavarino?
I don't, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Felix.
Okay, thank you.
Felix, I'll get that. I keep working on that every time. We're now going to go to the public item. We're going to call this 4B, and we're going to ask for public comments on either H2 or H4. Shelley, are there any comments online? Ms. Fulmer, we'll have you hold for just a moment, please, while you're making yourself ready to make a comment. If those in the galley or those online will limit their comments to 3 minutes, please. We'll entertain those. Are there any in the public that would like to make comment? Great. We'll go to Ms. Fulmer first. Ms. Fulmer, go ahead.
All right. Are you able to hear me
We're
adequately?
hearing you fine. We're hearing you fine.
Hello?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Charlie, question for you. This changing to the PRUD using the master plan, Charlie, does this mean that anything a PRUD developer requests at the time of submitting his plan must be approved by Weber County first, and that would include declaring the PRUD to be used for short-term rentals?
Ms. Fulmer, I'm going to allow the question to Mr. Ewert. This is a time for comments, not for questions, but Charlie's answer will be considered in your, it's okay, but Charlie's answer will be considered in your 3 minutes. Go ahead, Charlie.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and thank you, Jan, for the question. It actually is the opposite of that. It's that the developer has no entitlement to approval of a PRUD. It means that the legislative body has full discretion and control over whether or not that is approved, including whether or not nightly rentals are approved with that master plan development.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Fulmer, go ahead.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comments, Jan. Shelley, do we have anybody else? Jill, does she have a last name? Jill, Jill on Zoom, if you'll go ahead and state your name and where you live, please. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, this is Jill Hipwell. I live at 585 South, 3600 West. You pulled off what I needed to, but I wanted to address, sometimes when you have these discussions, you have them on a Monday. Is there any way that we can view the minutes of that? Because it'd give us information that we might need later.
You can get a hold of Shelley in the office. Those meeting minutes are recorded, Ms. Hipwell, and you can review those minutes from last Monday or from any Monday work session over the last couple of years to review on those. And so those are available. You can contact the Commission office at 801-399-8406, excuse me, 399-8406, and they can work you through the process of getting minutes for a work session. Any other questions,
Okay.
Ms. Hipwell?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. My other thing is, I've always been under the impression that the workshops are where you're supposed to go. I would have actually done this all earlier, but it all relates to one of them that was on the agenda. Are we allowed to speak at the workshops? I tried really hard to be part of the conversation at a combined workshop and wasn't able to. So I just don't know where to go to try to put my input.
Mr. Crockett, can you answer that question, our attorney, Mr. Crockett? His answer will count in your time, Ms. Hipwell.
So under the Open and Public Meetings Act, there is no requirement to take public comment at a work session or an open meeting. Only public hearings, like is happening today, is there a legal requirement to actually accept public comment. However, the commissioners are always welcome and at their discretion to accept public comment at these meetings and workshops if they choose to do so.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Ms.
thank you.
Hipwell.
One more question, if I got time.
Please.
When we have these public hearings, could we please get the packet to where the public can access it? I tried looking it up, so I knew exactly what I would be referring to. I do try to do my homework and was not able to this time.
So again, if you contact the Commission office, they can direct you as to where to get the packets so that you'll have full disclosure. We don't have, we're very transparent, and so we're happy to help you. Again, 801-399-8406 for that, Ms. Hipwell.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Yes, go ahead. Thank you, Ms. Hipwell. Commissioner Jenkins, go ahead.
So in the past, when we've had our work meetings, even though we're not required to allow people to speak and give us input at that, we've been open enough and lax enough that in most cases, if somebody raises their hand or asks if they can comment, I'm not aware of one time that we've not allowed them to do that.
Correct.
Now, like I say, I realize we're not required, and that if we had 8 million people on there and it was being overrun, we would probably shut it down. But in the past, when we've had 2 or 3 people and we've been talking about the ups and downs and rights and wrongs of different things we're looking at, and somebody wanted to comment, I'm not aware of one time that we've not allowed that comment to be made.
So I will do this publicly. Hopefully, Ms. Hipwell, you're still on the line. If out on that particular item, there may be one, there may be several that have comments on that. If one spokesperson would like to represent the one or the many that have a particular comment, we'd be glad to hear a comment in person the next time that item pertains on a work session agenda. Or, that even being said, you can call that number I aforementioned, and you can get on the agenda to address the commission yourself. So you have a couple of options there. We can do that. Hopefully she heard that. The next person? Rhonda Kippen. The same Rhonda Kippen? Wow. Miss Kippen, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
How are you doing, commissioners?
Nice to hear your voice again, Rhonda.
I would have drove down there to see you guys in person, but I had neck surgery, and so they haven't given me my driving privileges back. So, anyway, it would have been a joy to see you today. I was able to pull the report off of line, and it is just as I remember it back when I was there as an employee. And anyway, I just have a couple of questions now that I'm working on the other side of the block. And and seeing what we are up against as developers. As I read this code, it does seem to be like it's and some of these might be for Charlie, but you guys might be able to answer some of these. It does seem to be about 75% administrative with about 25% of it legislative as I read the code, based on verbiage in there addressing it as you can make rulings on the density, overriding certain items, deviations within the cluster code, certain things like that. There is a specific question I have as to why it is not being allowed to be in the CVR1 zone. There are specific areas within the Ogden Valley that this will be leaving out, specifically like areas in Wolf Creek, areas adjacent to Pineview, Nordic, that have this zoning that have the desired recreation, that bring in the tourism, but they are unable to gain the additional acreage that would give them the required DRR1 zoning that would give them the flexibility that the resort zone would have. And I believe that's like 1,000 acres, if my memory's serving me right. And so that's a huge concern that it's not being offered in the CVR1 zone. And then the other concern I have is I would like to see the clause in
Rhonda, if you'll make
section,
this quick, you've got 30 seconds.
104-27-4B1, where it says cluster development, and it says all subdivisions within the master plan development overlay zone shall comply with Title 108, Chapter 3, cluster subdivisions, except those lot development standards. And the reason why I ask this is because one of the things that I have seen over the 11 years that I've been planning is the beauty that comes when you allow a developer or a designer to actually just create, when they are actually allowed to just sit down with a pen and pencil and draw without constraints. And that is what the PRUD ordinance has done and has allowed Weber County to have, and it's allowed some beautiful developments within Weber County. And
Ms. Kippen,
what it will continue to do.
Ms. Kippen, you're out of time. I'm sorry. You're actually a little past
okay,
time.
No, that's okay.
So what we'll do,
I just wanted
I'm going to go ahead and
close that up.
good to hear from you. Charlie, will you address
Yes.
just a couple of things from Ms. Kippen's comments, please?
Yeah.
She addressed 104-274-B1, and then she also addressed the CBR1 zone and Wolf Creek, Pineview, and Nordic, please. Go ahead.
Let me start with CVR1. If you look at section 104-27-2, part 6, or excuse me, part 5, B5, Commercial Valley Recreation, Resort Recreation Zone is one of the zones listed. So it's there.
Okay.
And then the other one is why.
And where was that at, Charlie?
104-27-4-2, I believe it was, wasn't it, Charlie?
104-27-2, B5.
B5.
You like
Oh,
Bravo
okay, I see.
5.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Charlie, on
okay.
the next one.
I got you.
The other
Okay.
one is why would we start as a looking at the cluster subdivision code as a baseline for negotiation? It's just a baseline. Ms. Kippen mentioned that it looks like it's about 75% administrative, 25% legislative. That's not the case. It's 100% legislative. No property has the overlay zoned applied to it right now, and so it's 100% your discretion on applying the overlay zone to any property property in any of those zones. If you'd like to expand the zones that they're allowed in, I just stuck with what zones the previous PRUD was allowed in, with the exception of DRR1. And the reason I didn't list it in the DRR1 zone is because they're already governed by a master plan. There's no reason to put them through another round of legislative decision-making. You've already made those decisions on what they should be.
Sounds good. Commissioner Frohr, Commissioner Jenkins, any questions for Mr. Ewert? Great.
Appreciate the explanation.
Any other public, Shelley, that wants to comment? None being heard, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our public hearing and reconvene a public meeting.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. We appreciate those of you who have spoken up today and made public comments. We appreciate that very much. Commissioners, we're going to move item 5H2 on the discussion. This will be ordinance number 5. This is a discussion and/or action on a proposal text amendment to Weber County's Land Use Code that repeals the county's planned residential unit development, the PRUD ordinance, and adopts a new master plan development, or an MPD, overlay zone in its place. Commissioners, any comments or questions for staff before I ask for a motion?
I'm sorry, it's number 6 today.
I have that written in red 5. I'm sorry.
I made a mistake.
6.
It's my first one of the day.
No, it's the first one of the year. It's no problem.
First one ever.
Yeah, gosh, ever. That's okay. Thank you, Fatima. Ordinance number 6, Commissioners, questions? Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion for Ordinance 6.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve Ordinance 6, dealing with amendment to the Weber County Land Use Code that repeals the county planned residential unit development, PRUD ordinance, and adopts a new master plan development, MPD, overlay zone in its place. Ordinance 6.
And I will second that.
I have a motion and a second. Before I call for the vote, Charlie, you mentioned that this previous ordinance was in place and that was adopted while I was here. I trusted staff comment back then. Why would I trust staff comment now? Well, I made a decision back there based on your recommendation, and now you're bringing it again. Are you going to come again in a couple, 3 years and say the same thing?
Very possibly. Depends on what the general plan turns out to be in the future. But let me clarify. It came to the commission before. It wasn't passed. So you didn't make a decision on it. It was deferred further down the road.
Well, I'm trying to support staff here and reckon we're about a half-inch thick and a mile wide.
It sure is.
You can't tell by looking at me. So anyway, would appreciate it. So thank you. Commissioner, we have a motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. That's a roll call vote. Fatima.
Commissioner Frohr?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chair Harvey?
Aye, thank you. Again, Commissioners, item H3 is listed on our agenda, has been tabled or moved or withheld. We'll hear that at another time. I'll move to item H4, which is Ordinance 7. Is that correct, Fatima?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Item H4 is a discussion and/or action on a request to vacate a 10-foot public utility easement located at both sides of the lot line 63 and 64 Durfee Creek Estates. Item number 2C, like Charlie, is presented by Felix Yavarino. Commissioners, any questions for Felix? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for either way.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve it.
We have a motion to approve?
Ordinance 7.
I'll second.
Second, I'll place the motion for vote. Fatima?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Commissioners. That concludes item H on our agenda. I'll now move to item I, like India, which are Commissioner comments. Go ahead, Commissioners.
No comments from me.
Hearing none, I'll move to item number J, like Juliet. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Heard of both?
Aye.
Motion. Aye. I'll place the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.